I'm Aaron Ellis, and welcome to Epic Insights with Ovationz, a Nobody Studios portfolio company. This is the show where we bring you exclusive conversations with world-class experts, advisors, and top talent making waves and shaping the future of business. Whether you're a business leader, entrepreneur, or just passionate about personal and professional growth, you're in for some game-changing insights. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Epic Insights with Ovationz. I am your host, Aaron Ellis. Today, I am joined by Nancy Gentle Boudrie. I got it right. All right. So Nancy is a renowned expert in mindfulness and stress management. For 35 years, she's been empowering business leaders and corporations to lead consciously from the inside out. I can't wait to dive into that. With her compassionate approach and innovative guidance, she enables individuals to cultivate inner peace and resilience. She's dedicated to promoting mental clarity and emotional balance, and has made her a sought-after speaker and coach in the field of personal development. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat and ask a couple things. And I never know the format of how I'm going to ask them, but I'm going to just go through the stuff that I found when I looked into you. I think it was really cool. One of the things I found, I think it's a good place to start just for the awareness, but stress costs American businesses $300 million a year.
Yeah.
According to the American Psychological Association, relaxed and focused employees are more productive, make fewer mistakes, and handle challenges more competently than their frazzled colleagues. Can you speak about that? And that's a pretty crazy statistic too.
It is, isn't it? And that's what I think I've really enjoyed in making my series that I do for a lot of organizations around this. So when, it says when employees are at ease, when they are in a state of feeling seen, heard, valued, supported by programs like what we bring to organizations, they thrive. And this especially the workforce now. So what I found is people actually can use wellness, health and wellness, all the programs like this as a sellable difference when they go to even present to their client or client base. But most importantly, it's how their people, mentally, emotionally, physically, divergent thinking, creative thinking, all this is not just grind it out. It's about giving them tools and techniques and things that help and empower them to be the best that they can be. And I think COVID brought this new mental wellness of, awareness to us. And all of a sudden, all these numbers and statistics really started showing themselves. And I've been talking this language for years, and it's wonderful that it's actually getting more light that you can, provide this safer environment and have less workman comp claims, have less people absenteeism. And they've got numbers and data to support this.
And for the longest time, they didn't have numbers and data. So I remember speaking about these kind of concepts, and we're going to get into meditation and mindfulness and stuff. I've been meditating since I was 15 and teaching it in corporations. And they the cold dog turning their head, like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
I remember so many times over the last few decades, they're like, Aaron, we need to drive more revenue. We want to bring in the programs that drive more revenue, but they don't realize that this statistic, it costs $300 billion a year.
Yes.
Stress. And so they're stressing out about driving more revenue, which is actually having them get less revenue. They don't get that.
Exactly.
And from my experience too, even in myself, when you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed, you can't focus. You can't pay attention. You don't remember what you did.
No.
So can you share, I know that you work with that too, and I did read too that you help them improve their attention, like employees, improve attention, focus, and overall health. Can you give an example of a company you've worked with maybe and the change that you've seen or the change that they saw? Because I think that's even more important.
Yeah, I think I could directly speak to that. I have a client right now that I've had it for 5 years. They consider me their secret sauce. They won't put testimonials up on it because they don't want their competitors to know. Every other week, I'm going in there 12 to 12:30. Whoever wants to dial in, it's a Zoom call, and we do breathing techniques. We do meditative, but it's a quick hit. See, people think you got to sit for 30 minutes and chant Om. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about actually learning to dial in and be aware when I'm jacked up and I'm trying to complete this project and I'm recognizing I'm hitting my head up against that wall and I've got brain fog. I can't hardly stay focused. I need to take a break. I need to take a breath. So one of my favorite techniques is something very simple. It's called the stop technique. And you literally it's all about being aware that you have activated that sympathetic nervous system that's out the yin yang, and you need to drop into the parasympathetic. So what do? You connect to your breath. It's with you at all times. So, right? You stop, you take a series of breaths. I don't care if you're counting to 4 and exhale for 8. You can do all these cool, there's a million different fun ones, but you're teaching people to take the pause, take the breath. So it's stop, take the breath, observe, notice your jacked up feeling. Don't fight against it, embrace it. You're having a moment. What am I thinking about? Oh, I'm thinking about the fight I had with my wife earlier today, or I'm thinking about what this person said to me. And then if in that observation, you need to get grounded in the present moment, there's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I mean, there's a million things you can do. And I teach people how to ground themselves, get really anchored into the present moment. But taking that observation, you realize I'm not present. I'm not here. I'm dwelling, ruminating, doing something on something else. And then giving yourself that moment to not meet it with resistance. Purposely, then it's P, purposely proceed. What do you want to do? How do you want to greet this moment? I've got a deadline. I'm trying to achieve something. And but that breath, that moment of trying to unwind, and I say trying because it takes practice. You got here because of habits that you practiced. We get better at the things we practice. So you can't say, oh, well, geez, I did it once. I can't do this. I'm not going to, you have to practice it. So but stop is a very wonderful, and I encourage people all the time. If you look in a cubicle and you see that guy counting, and breathing in and out and taking a moment, don't think he's lazy. He might actually have a secret weapon. You have no idea. And now he's going to come out of a pattern, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I love that. I absolutely love that. Now, this perfectly leads into one of my other questions. Every company is different. And with the Epic series, we're curating a specific way to present a talk, yet we know and we plan on each client bringing us their specific problem. So there's going to be different variables with each company. I did read this, and I'm curious can you explain a little bit how you custom design things to each company rather than coming in with maybe a prepackaged program? You're actually bespoking it for the company?
Absolutely. I can think of several off the bat. I have a talk that they wanted to develop. They were an open book management type style. They wanted to teach that embracive concept of open book management. So what does that mean? That's transparency, right? But to a degree, you're not going in there and you're not providing everything, but you're trying to teach them. So we called it leading from the inside out. Notice how I continue to ride that theme. We put presence-centered leadership. We actually noticed, and we had data, that employees that are engaged in this type of activity excel. So we went in, I gave some fun, very whimsical, very animated. You give them a couple of, you're talking to all kinds of people. Like this particular was a factory. So it's like you're talking to the factory workers as well as management and so on and so forth. But really engaging and inviting them. So that was, I got the memo of what I did all kinds of research on what is open book management. What does that mean? What does that mean to the employees? And, really educating them on, you think that the vice president or president, he's driving this Lexus, he's making hand over fist. Well, you want to know what, dollar to dollar is actually being taken. They were shocked. Like they were saying, oh, $20 on, 20 on the dollar. And it's all saying, no, it's about 50 cents, whatever. You're educating them, right? So that was geared specifically for what they had and they wanted. I had another one that had high turnover. So we quickly realized that something in their workforce was burning them out, and there was this rapid turnover. So we started doing stress management techniques, and we actually didn't call it mindfulness because I was in the heart of the Bible Belt. So we really tailored it to be more like Christian-based mindfulness, but it was this kind of this tone. So you're looking to really hone what it is like you said, their challenges, and how do you want to address it. And gosh, those are just two that come to mind. And then I had a leadership team. We wanted to really teach them how to be mindful, conscious leaders. And it was so successful. We just kept doing it over and over again in different departments, because that one department said, oh my gosh, she really shined the light on a whole way of looking at leading. And so you can take these things and make it and mold it.
Now, I want to jump into meditation and mindfulness a little bit deeper, starting with meditation. And first of all, I mentioned you, I think off camera, I started meditating when I was 15. And when people say, how did you know how to meditate? I'm like, well, I didn't necessarily know how to meditate. Right. I was just on tour with a bunch of crazy musicians, and I wanted to sleep, so I pictured my body as transparent, and all the noise went through me, and I'd fall asleep. So I just came up with that, and that was a form of meditation.
Right.
And you mentioned with companies, we have with one of my companies, well, the company that actually owns this company, we have a weekly brains that meditate together, innovate together for 30 minutes. We all get together as leaderships and meditate together.
I love it.
It's crazy how much of a shift it creates in people and how much it opens up for innovation. Now, back to what I was going to say or ask you, with meditation, how do you explain meditation to people that might not have any idea, or they believe it's something that's too difficult to do, or you know what I mean? They have this pre-formulated idea of what meditation is. We talked about the central nervous system. They probably close up when they heard the word. Yeah,
exactly.
How do you work through that?
So I think the best way, again, is you lead with yourself. So when, I tell people all the time, a little bit of my backstory. I was the Energizer Bunny on steroids, literally high intensity, high energy. I owned an insurance agency, and my employees on the bottom floor said they could tell what mood I was in by the way I came down the stairs.
Really?
And I mean, I was one intense, driven business owner. I created great success. I mean, I bought this agency when it was like $300,000 in written premium. I sold it when it was close to $5 million in written premium in less than a decade to a very large bank. So I set all that tone to say, this girl is not suddenly going to be a Zen master. I mean, I've learned to harness the power of stillness, embrace the thoughts that are passing through, but noticing when I grab onto a thought, notice when I draw it up close and personal to me. So I tell people, just at the beginning, you're just connected to your breath, and you're just encouraging yourself to just be, to sit still, to just be. And when you grab something and it grabs a hold of you, a thought that's passing through, I'm not going to think about that right now. And I am a list person. So sometimes when I'm in stillness, oh my gosh, you got to go buy that birthday gift. You got to go get that, loaf of bread. You got to send that email. And I just gently open up my eyes, jot down email, bread, go right back in. Mm-hmm. I'm training myself to give myself a minimum of, I start with people when they're beginning 8 minutes. Mm-hmm. And this is all backed by science and research. You can actually, there's a technique called the quick coherence technique that only needs like 3 minutes. And you can change the heart rhythm of the beats of your heart and bring yourself into a coherent state of being. So you're teaching them. And it's, some people have equilibrium issues and can't close their eyes. All they got to do is choose something on the floor, glance at the window. You're teaching them it's about inviting yourself to just come down from that Energizer Bunny on steroids, that thing that's all jacked up and going, just come down. It's like the snow globe. You can't see anything when it's all shaken up, but as soon as it comes down, now the image is clear. And it's all about, again, bringing yourself into that state of being so I can be calm, clear, and connected to what's going on so I can make choices from that space, not a knee-jerk space.
There's so many rabbit holes we could go down. I feel we could do a whole series on this podcast we're talking to you. There's so many things that like you're sparking thoughts in my mind. I'm making notes for later date, things that we could talk about, but I'm also watching the time. So one thing I'd also love to do is I'm sure you've done this too, and I've been doing this for decades too, which again, it was looked at as like, what are you talking about? That's not true. Now it's like, it makes sense, is bridging the personal and professional and helping people realize that there's no separation. So with that, one, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but I also would love to hear the personal side of you. Do you have children? What do you love to do in your spare time? Who's the outside of work, Nancy?
Yeah. Oh gosh. So this is so near and dear to my heart because it is about not compartmentalizing. You're the same person. And I have two beautiful children. My son is an Air Force Academy grad. He is stationed up in Boston, and he's doing, his life mission and his life purpose work. When they were very early, I spoke this language and taught them to really dial into who they are. The other one is my daughter. She is a beautiful soul. So he's 24, she's 27, and she is living out her passions and dreams. She loves the entertainment, sports entertainment specifically, and she works for Comcast Spectacor here in the Philadelphia area. She is, I think her title is manager of hospitality. So she went to college for sports and recreational management and living out her dreams. And so I'm a proud mama, if you can't tell. And I am constantly telling them, live a life you design, baby. Live a life you design, because it's all about, that's how you find your purpose, your passion. And then I'm married. I have a beautiful husband. This is my second rodeo. So I'm blessed to have found a person that embraces, who and what I am. And we both meditate. We meditate together every morning. So that's, and then as far as what I love to do, I'm a beach girl. I love the beach and I love hiking in the woods. So I like both. I like both ends of everything. And I think the beach is just a beautiful place to connect. And just as the woods, I can feel the trees and breathing, right? And then I love good books. So in the winter up in Philadelphia, I make a nice fire and a book is always in my hand. So.
Love it. I love books. I love nature. So that's very, very, very similar, of course, like I was saying when we were off camera.
Exactly.
Wow, exactly. That's awesome. So I have a final question for you, but before that, there's plenty of things I was going to ask you, but time-wise, I want to understand what you mean by emotional equanimity.
Ooh, so equanimity is finding that sense of balance. So think of that equilibrium, that thing, the justice sign and everything. And I believe everything is about finding that sense of balance that is for you. This is not, everyone is uniquely different. So what is that? So when we talk about equanimity, it is finding that sense of being at peace. Doesn't mean you don't have challenge, doesn't mean you're not experiencing any pain, but it's how can I navigate this with grace and ease? And then you add emotional equanimity. You're really teaching people to take ownership of your emotions. First of all, if you're not dialed into your emotions, how you get dialed in, start learning to not be fear your emotions, be able to allow them to pass through you. They're supposed to be guests. They're not supposed to be permanent residents. They're supposed to come and go. And how can I hold space, allow that emotion to be so that I do place distance between me and the emotion and now see it, observe it, instead of being enmeshed in it. So you're teaching people how to do this. This is so important as leaders, as the human race, period. But when you're dealing with corporate and you're dealing with all that rapid fire of what goes on in our corporations today, teaching emotional equanimity, emotional regulation is so important. We shy away from emotions where we should be hitting this topic head on, and we should be teaching people how to observe their emotions, allow them, and place distance, so that then you start to see the patterns in your life. You start to see your triggers. And I have a 6-step process that I use, and I take people through as companies and individuals all the time, teaching them this principle. So I love that question, because people ask me, because equanimity is a word nobody ever uses much.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I'm like, I wonder what she means by that. And what you just said and how you just explained that is so clear to me. The dots might not connect for people at first, but ultimately, if somebody has emotional equanimity, they're going to be more focused. They're not going to be as stressed. They're not going to get as overwhelmed. People don't realize that when they store all that energy in, it doesn't necessarily, it not only affects their work, but it affects them physically.
Yeah.
Their health, like drastically.
Oh my God. And so, speaking on that, we've heard, there's a stat out there. We spend 50% of our waking hours mind wandering. 50%. Wow. So if you start to teach people these little tools and techniques that are backed by science, neuroscience, there's research and data, you claim even 1% to 2% back, you've just improved your productivity. You've just improved how your performance, your focus and concentration without adding hours. It's about really teaching them how to peak perform and take back their life. Like, we're taking a 20-minute break. You build up to, I think the stat is something like you take 2 breaks per day to be in stillness. You can reverse the effects of stress for 24 hours.
Wow.
And I want to say it's like 18 minutes. So ultimately you want to get people up, but you start with, 5 minutes, just connecting to your breath. And it sounds like a tall order, but then once I've started teaching people, they're like, that was 15 minutes. That was 18, this 30-minute thing that I do with people. I keep it right in that sweet spot, and we're off and running. And they just soak it up. They love it.
I love it. Well, we are just over time, and I always like to give a little time to see if there's any final thoughts or anything you want to point people towards as we wrap up today.
Yeah, no, I think my biggest thing is, again, closing out with create that life you design. You don't have to be a victim to life. You can be the master of your life. You don't have to be squeezed by life. You can choose. So remember, you always have choice. Remember, there are experts like us, and there's such a plethora of information out there that you can choose to live a life you wish to live. Never fall victim.
I love that. Thank you very much for joining us today, Nancy.
Thank you.
Everybody, this has been another episode of Epic Insights. We were just talking with Nancy Boudrie. Did I say that right?
Yes.
All right. Nancy is an excellent example of the experts we have on our Epic series. Watch for her on the Epic series. And I want you to think about what I'm saying here. Go back and listen, because we went everywhere. We went all over the map, yet all of it was connected. And she's a great example of someone that knows their stuff so well that they can go into it upside down, backwards, sideways, forwards, however, and always bring it all back together. So that was very, very great that we actually got to talk like this, Nancy. Again, without me knowing who you were, I love experiencing people for the first time that way. So thank you for showing up and just being who you are.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Epic Insights with Ovationz. I hope you found our conversation as insightful and inspiring as I did. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with anyone who could use a little epic insight. Remember, the journey to growth never stops, so keep learning, stay curious, and let's continue building something extraordinary together. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.